Hello and welcome. This is Jessica with Mabel Set the Table, and today we're going to be making blood orange vanilla bars. So the other day I was in the grocery store and we found some beautiful blood oranges. They are in season right now in Northern California, and so we grabbed a few of those and we're going to make a recipe with them. So this recipe is from nospoonnecessary.com. And it is blood oranges with bourbon vanilla beans. And I had to look that up because I was not really in the mood for bourbon today, but it's just a vanilla bean, so I'm gonna go ahead and make that. So this recipe calls for, it's two parts. It's a blood orange curd, and then it is a crust that goes with it. So it calls for the blood orange curd, 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter cubed and chilled, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 3 large eggs, 2 blood oranges, zest and juice, about a half a cup of juice, 1 bourbon vanilla bean split and seeded. Now I'm not sure if my vanilla beans are bourbon vanilla beans, but they are organic vanilla beans from our local organic market. And then for the shortbread crust, we're going to need 1.5 sticks of unsalted butter softened. That's about 12 tablespoons, 2.5 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 2.5 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar, plus a little bit more for dusting, 1 1/3 cup all-purpose flour, and 1/4 teaspoon kosher salt. So like I said, this is a 2-part recipe. So you're gonna make your curd first on your stovetop. You're gonna let that sit and chill after it's done, and you're gonna make your shortbread crust. So for the blood orange curd, you're gonna whisk together your sugar and your eggs in a 1.5 to 2 quart saucepan until it's smooth. You're then going to add the orange zest and the blood orange juice. You're going to stir that together, place it on the stove over medium heat, and cook, stirring frequently until thickened. Now this says about 12 to 15 minutes, but we'll test it with a spoon to kind of see how thickened it is. It should be the consistency of pudding or so. Remove the curd from the heat, stir in the vanilla bean seeds, which we'll go ahead and we'll cut those in half. We'll run the back side of the knife along it and take out all the seeds, and then put that into the curd. We're then going to add the butter in a few cubes at a time. Now this butter is cold, chilled, it's been in the fridge. You're adding it in after it's off of the heat, just a few cubes at a time, stirring in between each addition until the curd is smooth. We're going to transfer this to a bowl, cover it, place it off to the side or in the fridge or freezer to cool until it's firm. Now while that is setting up in the fridge or freezer, we might put it in the freezer just to speed it up a little bit. We're going to make our shortbread crust in a bowl of our stand mixer, or a regular bowl with a handheld mixer. It says beat together your butter, both sugars, so that's your powdered sugar and your granulated sugar. You're going to beat this together on medium-high speed until completely combined and it resembles frosting. So nice and thick. You're going to stop and scrape down the sides of the bowl as necessary, and then add in the the flour and the salt. It doesn't say to add it sifted, so go ahead and just chuck those in the bowl and add them in. Beat on low speed until the flour is incorporated and the mixture comes together. Then we're going to transfer our dough to a baking dish. It does not say what size baking dish, so I'm going to go ahead and see when we have the mixture if it's going to fit in our 9x13 or if it would be better in a smaller pan. I have some smaller square ones and I have a smaller rectangle one, so we'll go ahead and see what size it's going to look like it's going to fit into. We're going to press it into that pan after it's been oiled. It says here it works best if you spray your hands with some non-stick spray so that the dough doesn't stick to your hands. Sorry. My tongue is not working today. And then we're going to bake it until it is lightly golden and crust is set. That's about 30 minutes. We're then going to pull it out of the oven, let it cool slightly, maybe about 15 minutes or so. We're then going to reduce our oven temperature, which was at 350, and we're going to reduce that to 300 degrees. We're going to pour our orange curd over the top of that. And then we're going to bake it again for about 18 to 25 minutes until the center is a little bit set the edges are set and the center is still jiggly. We're then going to remove it and let it sit and sit and cool, and then we're going to serve it up. So we're going to go ahead and get our ingredients set and we'll see you then. All right, so I have a 1.5 quart saucepan here. I have my 1 cup sugar, my 3 eggs, my blood orange zest, and half a cup of blood orange juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to mix the sugar and the egg in the pan until it's smooth. I'm then going to add my blood orange juice and my orange zest and take it over to the heat. When that's done, I'm going to pull it off, add in my vanilla beans and then my cold butter, and one at a time until it's smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in my 1 cup of sugar and my 3 eggs. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Get those in there. Mix it up until it's nice and smooth. Now it doesn't say if it wants me to mix it until it lightens in color, until it's doubled, anything like that. It just wants it until it's smooth. So I'm guessing that's fully combined. Once I have this fully mixed, again, I'm going to add the juice and the zest, and I'm going to take it over to the stove and start heating it up until it is a thin pudding consistency, is what the recipe says. So I'm going to check that with a spoon, do that little test where you get the spoon with the curd, on the back of it, run my finger through it. If it stays parted, then it's looking pretty good, I'm guessing. So this is fully mixed together. It's looking nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and add my half a cup of blood orange juice, and this is a beautiful pink color, the color I would love my hair to be. And I'm also going to add my blood orange zest. Now I zested 2 oranges and I juiced 1.5 orange. That gave me the half a cup of juice that I needed. So we're going to enjoy that other half a cup of, half of an orange. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the stove. I totally just got juice all over myself because I wasn't paying attention there. And we're going to heat it up. All right, so now that our juice, zest, egg, and sugar is mixed up, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the heat over medium heat. And again, I'm going to cook this together until it is thickened, fully incorporated, and is like a thin pudding. Again, I'm going to draw out the spoon, draw my finger down it, and I should get a good separation on that. After that's done, I'm going to go ahead and mix in our vanilla bean here, as well as our butter, which is in the freezer just chilling right now. That is going to be nice and cold, and we're going to incorporate that 1 cube at a time. That just thickens it up even further, cools it down, and then we'll go ahead and put this in a bowl, put it off to the side, let it set, and then we'll get started on the shortbread crust. So we'll see you then. Okay, so our 12 minutes is up. As you can see, it has changed significantly since earlier. It's no longer frothy on top. It's definitely a thicker pudding-like consistency. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a butter knife. Don't want to run my finger down it again and burn myself. So I'm gonna take a butter knife, take my spatula here and run my knife down it. And you see how that line is holding there? That is showing me that it is a thick, pudding-like consistency, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my heat. I'm going to go ahead and add my vanilla bean pods here, or sorry, my vanilla beans, not the pods, these are seeds. Get that all in there. I'm going to mix it up, incorporate those vanilla beans into our curd here.
Oh, I should have had a whisk on hand.
That's all right. Get those incorporated fully. And then I'm going to get the cold butter out of the freezer, and I'm going to drop those in cube by cube. So we'll check back with you in a minute. Okay, so we have our chilled butter out of the freezer. I've already went ahead and cut it into cubes before I put it in to chill it. So I'm going to drop these in one at a time, mix them in until they're fully incorporated. Should melt pretty quick because the mixture is fairly hot. You know, burnt myself on it the first time. So butter melts really fast in there. I'm gonna get that. As we add these in, it's gonna smooth out the consistency of the curd a little bit more. And then it's also going to start cooling the mixture and thickening the mixture too. So you're gonna see it changing, might change in clarity a little bit. I'm not sure, never made this before. I know when I've made lemon curd before, it's changed the consistency and the color of it slightly, adding the cold butter to it. I think the fats just kind of jump in there, give it a bit more of a sheen, just makes it really pretty. So that first one is incorporated. I'm gonna go ahead and mix the second one in. This might take us a few minutes to get it fully mixed in, but we're gonna go ahead, keep adding them in one at a time. And then we're gonna transfer it to a clean bowl here, put it into or set it off to the side or put it into the freezer to let it cool down for a while. And then we'll get our shortbread crust started. All right, so we've just added in our last cube of butter and we're mixing that in. The curd is definitely thickened. I feel that it's gotten glossier and slightly more translucent as we've mixed in the butter. So as this one melts, I just want to remind you again, you can check out other things that I've made on Mabel Set the Table, which is my Instagram. I have some pictures over there of my first project we did for the video series, which was marshmallows. I also have some pictures of past things that I've created, such as brownies or some really cute Valentine's dinner items. So you can head on over to Mabel Set the Table on Instagram and check out those pictures. So got the butter incorporated here. Oh, one last piece, just slightly needing to be mixed in. Come on, butter.
It looks almost like jam right now.
It does, like a peach jam colored almost. It's beautiful. Now on the website, Nothing But the Spoon, I was reading that she adds a little bit of coloring to hers to make it look more vibrant, but I want hers to look just natural, just the color that it is. It definitely does not stay pink like the color of the juice. It's more of an orangey, peachy color now, but I like that. I think it's gonna be really beautiful. You still get the flecks of the pink skin, or zest, sorry, in there. You can see a little bit there, some beautiful pink zest. So now that the butter is fully incorporated, I'm going to pour this into our fresh bowl here. I'm just gonna pour that in. Make sure I get all of that yummy goodness. It smells so good in here. Almost smells to me like, do you remember the Flintstones vitamins when we were kids?
Yeah, I get a little bit of the oranginess in there.
The vitamin C.
Yeah, yeah, that little kind of orangey acid comes through a little tiny bit.
Now that might not be a good memory for everybody. For me, I loved the Flintstones chewable as an adult. I would love to still take Flintstones chewables.
Probably could.
I guess it's very millennial of me. I'm an old millennial, but I'm still a millennial. So that's in our clean bowl here. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to cover it with a piece of saran wrap and I'm going to let it sit and cool while we get our shortbread started. So just a little note here before we start our shortbread. When I cover the curd off to the side, I like to put cellophane all the way down touching the curd. This way, as it cools, it doesn't get condensation and put more water into the mix. It just kind of messes up the consistency if you get water in there. So go ahead, cut yourself a piece of cellophane, saran wrap, whatever you have, stick it down, touching the curd, and let it set off to the side and cool. All right, so as our curd is cooling, we're gonna go ahead and start our base. So what we're gonna do is we have 12 tablespoons of butter. That's a stick and a half of butter in our mixing bowl. We're gonna add 2.5 tablespoons of regular granulated sugar and 2.5 tablespoons of confectioner sugar, powdered sugar into the mix as well. I had to go and look what a half a tablespoon was, and that is 1.5 teaspoons is a half tablespoon. So go ahead and throw that in our mixer. and mix it up. It wants you to cream them together until they are a frosting-like consistency. So the butter was nice and soft, so it shouldn't take long. I'm going to make sure I scrape down the sides of it to get the sugar fully incorporated. You don't want lumpy clumps of sugar in there. One thing I found interesting about this is that it didn't call for me sifting the powdered sugar. So hopefully we don't end up with any clumpies in there, or if we do, it doesn't matter, hopefully. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to turn this off for just a second. I'm gonna lift it up. I'm going to scrape down the sides of my mixer. It's getting pretty thick, it's pretty nice. Almost frosting-like consistency. Let me check my recipe again. Again, this recipe is from Nothing But the Spoon, or No Spoon Necessary. Sorry, nospoonnecessary.com is where this is from. Nothing But the Spoon, that's a good website name if anybody wants it. And it wants me to mix it until it just resembles frosting. It does not say until doubled in size or anything like that. Light and fluffy, so I'm just gonna keep mixing that together. It's almost there. Now, I'm also going to add to this 1 1/3 cup flour and 1/4 teaspoon salt into the mix. Andy's here helping me again with my baking. He's been being wonderful, cleaning up my mess as I bake. If you've ever baked with me before, sometimes it gets a little messy in here. We like to clean up as we go. So this is fully combined. It's looking nice and frosting-like, making like buttercream. It kind of looks like this. So I'm gonna.
Can you overdo this at all?
I'm not sure. I've never gotten to that point. You know, with buttercream you can, and it breaks.
Okay.
So
probably careful with that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to lift my mixer up, pour in my flour. Now, some people pour in mixes a little bit at a time. Some people lump it all in. This just says pour it in.
How much flour was that?
That was 1 1/3 cup of flour. And then I'm gonna add our 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So my little, not that one's too small. My little 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I just have these really nice silicone little measuring spoons that I absolutely love. So I'm gonna get that, pour it in, not overdo it like I did in the marshmallows, which ended up being fine.
Those were good.
That actually ended up being really nice.
Extra little thick of salt balanced out the sugar.
Yeah.
They were very sweet.
Marshmallows, they're sweet, right? So it just kind of helped. We did turn those marshmallows into Rice Krispie treats. I messed them up, I'm gonna say.
We put a little too much butter in there.
I added a full stick of butter in there when it only calls for about 4 tablespoons. And so they were more.
They tasted delicious, but they were soft. The Rice Krispies absorbed the butter.
Yeah, so they're chewy.
So they weren't that crispy Rice Krispie texture you like, and so they tasted delicious, but you kind of had to gnaw your way through them.
Yeah, not crispy, crunchy. I also added some peanut butter to some, and that was really good. It kind of tasted like a peanut butter granola bar, a peanut butter crispy bar, but it was quite nice. So we got our flour, our butter, our sugars, and our salt in here, and we're gonna mix them up until well combined. I'm gonna start it on a slow, not so I don't fling it up and hit myself in the face with it. We don't need to start any food fights in the kitchen tonight. Even though Andy's wearing a nice black shirt and could do with a little bit of flour on there.
I
he didn't
look like I'm baking.
He didn't want to put on his Thanksgiving apron again. But
well, I'm not dirty, so.
I'm not dirty.
If I need to handle the dough, I'll put on an apron.
What are you saying about me?
You're on the front lines, babe.
And to be honest, I did flip, hurt at myself already and all sorts of stuff. So, all right. So our flour, our butter, our sugar, our salt is creaming together in here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it.
We need to scrape
off
the edge down at all
again, and I am gonna scrape down the edges. Exactly.
Beginning to learn how this works.
Andy's reading my mind. He's starting to be a baker. I did go back and read the recipe again. I want to apologize. I said that it didn't tell me what size baking dish to put it in, but it actually calls for a lined 8x8 pan. So Andy's gonna line that for me.
8x8 pan lined with what? Foil?
Let's line it with foil. She calls for parchment paper, but I don't have any parchment paper, so I'm gonna line it with foil. I also said 375 is what the oven is heated to, but it's actually 325, and then we're gonna put the curd in and lower it to 300 degrees and bake with the curd in. So I got this mixed there, scraped down on the sides, I'm going to throw the mixer back on, continue mixing it for just another minute to get it fully mixed together. And then we will go ahead, get the pan ready. 1 second. Get the pan ready, and then we will be right back with you. Okay, so now our pan is ready. I'm gonna go ahead and put our mixture in here. Again, this is the 1 1/3 cup flour, the 2 types of sugar, our 12 tablespoons of butter, and our salt. I'm gonna go ahead and transfer that into our prepared baking pan, 8 by 8. So I'm gonna just go ahead, dump that down. It's a nice firm consistency right now. So it should spread fairly easy in there. Sometimes you make shortbreads and they're quite crumbly, or a curd bar base and they're quite crumbly and you're really having to press it in there. This is a nice spreadable consistency.
This almost looks like a cookie dough.
It is. Well, it is. Shortbread is a cookie.
Oh.
So it is a type of cookie dough. So I'm just gonna spread that in there. I like it when my bars have a little bit that go up the sides of it. That's a personal preference for me. So I'm gonna actually make it a little bit thicker up the sides, just so when we put the curd in, it kind of just, it sits down in it, kind of like a little basin. So again, we're gonna spread this in here. We're gonna bake it in our 325 degree oven, which
there it is. Now it's hot.
Our 325 degree oven for 30 minutes. Then we're gonna pull it out, let it cool slightly, and then pour our curd in it, which is currently in the freezer setting up. Pour that in, bake it off in a 300 degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, I believe, and then pull it out and let it set. So we're gonna get this in the oven, bake it off, and we'll get back with you. All right, so I've pulled our cookie base out of the oven. I've let it set and cool for a few minutes. Went ahead and pulled our custard out of the freezer. It has set and it is nice and cool. So we're gonna go ahead and put our custard into our shortbread base. I keep saying cookie base, but into our shortbread base. And we're gonna go ahead and put it back into a 300 degree oven for 15 minutes until the edges are set and the center is still jiggly. And then we'll pull it out, let it cool, slice it up, and give it a try. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull off the cellophane. It does stick to the cellophane, the custard. That's okay. Take your little spatula, just slide it back down in there. Obviously this is not what she says to do with the recipe, but you know, sometimes you gotta make a recipe a little bit your own. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss that away. And I have our custard. I'm gonna give it just a quick stir, you know, just so I can get it clean from the bowl.
It's pretty cold now, right?
Yeah, it's nice and cold. You can feel it.
Okay, yeah.
It's chilled out in the freezer, probably for about 45 minutes or so. So it's nice and cool. So I'm just gonna pour this into our cookie base, spread it over the top, and then again, stick it back in the oven.
Now, why is it cooled down? Do you know? Like instead of like leaving it warm?
I don't know. Maybe there's the threat of overcooking it with the curd being warm. Maybe it's just to give you a chance to cook the cookie base. Maybe there's a reaction that happens when it's cooled and then it's heated back up. I'm not 100% sure.
If anybody knows, let us know.
Let us know.
We're trying to learn.
Yep, that's part of the process for us, is learning new tools, new techniques, new recipes. That's part of the whole thing for us. I've always loved baking, but this is just a chance to get to know things more. So I'm spreading this in, just kind of getting the edges nice and even spread over that cookie base. Oh, it smells so good. The vanilla beans are just so perfectly spread throughout here. There's still the beautiful little shreds of the orange peel in orange and pinks. So that's nice and smoothed out. I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to the oven, put it in. Again, recipe says for about, 18 to 25 minutes. Cook it again, just so it gets nice and set. Edges are set, center's still jiggly, and we'll pull it out and let it cool. All right, see you then. All right, so it's been 30 minutes and our curd is set on the outside but still jiggly in the center. Now it said about 18 to 25 minutes if I'm remembering correctly on the recipe, and then that the outside would be set and the center would still be jiggly. Now that is how it is. The outside of this is bubbling slightly and it is still jiggly in the center. It smells divine. We're gonna go ahead and let this cool for quite a while, and then so that it can set up more, and then we'll slice it and display it and try it. All right guys, so it's been about an hour and a half, and these, while they are setting around the edge, they are not quite set in the center yet. Now that might be down to me putting the curd in the freezer. I might not have cooked them long enough. 30 minutes may have just not been long enough for this batch, even though it was setting around the edge like described in the recipe. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave them overnight to sit, see if they firm up a bit, and then we'll cut them in the morning and enjoy them. We'll see you tomorrow. So it's the next day and our blood orange vanilla bars are set. They've been in the fridge overnight just so they could firm up. I decided to leave them in because they just weren't set in the center. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a small knife and slice around the edges of the foil just to loosen it from the pan. And then I'm gonna take it out and we're gonna cut it into bars. All right, now we've removed our bars from the pan. I'm just gonna pull the tin foil down. That should expose our bars. They are super sticky to the tin foil, I'm seeing. Again, I don't know if that's my fault, if that's just the recipe. She did call for a lined pan with parchment paper, so maybe this is why. It's because it sticks quite a bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. Oh, there it goes. Pop. We're free. Ooh, it's a nice set shortbread crust on the bottom. I can feel that any butter has really come together. Push it off the side. So you can see it's very solid on the bottom. It's definitely set on the top now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it up using a large knife. I'm gonna do small squares, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it across the center first. Ooh, that's set. All right, so the shortbread crust is definitely set. I'm gonna turn that 90 degrees, and I'm gonna do the same again. Push that in. Ooh. Oh no! Oh well. So the center of the curd is not super set. You can see it's come off on the knife here. Again, I don't know if that's my fault or just the recipe. I'll definitely have to try this one again and see. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue cutting this up. Because the curd was already cooked before we put it in the bars, it is safe to eat, I'm suspecting. And it did get up to about 300 degrees. So it should be cooked through. Turn that pan again. And then one more cut. And there we go. Lemon bars.
Delicious.
All right, guys, so here we have it, our blood orange vanilla bean bars from nospoonnecessary.com. These are really fun to make, and while they didn't turn out perfect, I really enjoyed the process. I think next time I would cook our curd a little bit longer on the stovetop, as well as once I get it into the cookie base and put it in the oven at 300 degrees, I would cook it for longer than 30 minutes, which was actually longer than the recipe originally called for. But the edges, while they were a little bit set, the center is definitely not, even after 8 hours in the fridge. I am definitely going to use the curd recipe again. It's just a delicious vanilla-y, sweet, orangey curd, and I think it would be great on a vanilla cake or in the center of cupcakes as a little hidden surprise. It'd be great for the summertime or just at the end of the winter, like right now, to bring a little sunshine into our days. So this was really fun. It was a fail on the curd part, but definitely a pass for flavor and a success there. I've had a great time making them, and this has been Mabel Set the Table. Join us next time to see what we bake up.